All right, we're going to review Lexis Advance, so let's get to it. Here's the hypothetical we're going to use. A police officer in Toledo, Ohio, pulled over Barry for running a red light. During the stop, the officer saw the barrel of a shotgun sticking out from underneath a hoodie jacket on the rear seat. Thus, the officer arrested Barry for possession of a concealed weapon. Here's our issue. Does Barry have a defense to the charge because the weapon was not fully hidden? Let's look at Lexis Advance. So here's Lexis for law school. We need to go into Lexis Advance here. Here's the main Lexis Advance home page. Remember, ignore this search bar. You will search everything way too broad. Instead, come down here to explore content, which will help you narrow by jurisdiction. We don't have a federal issue, we have a state issue. So let's go into state. Next, we want to get to right to our jurisdiction, which is Ohio. When we click Ohio, we are now into the Ohio database, which is just like looking at or going into the Ohio room of the library. I want to ignore for now this search bar because this will require us to search everything in Ohio, which is way too broad as well. Where do we start? Research when we don't know anything about our topic, we look at secondary materials. So if we scroll down, we will see Ohio jurisprudence third. A jurisprudence is a great secondary source to use, so that's where we will go. When you are using a secondary source, the place to start is with table of contents or an index. Lexis does not offer us an index, but it does table of contents. So this is where we're going to search. I'm going to use a root expander. That's the exclamation point. The root is conceal. With the expander, I will get concealed, concealing, concealment. And I am going to do that within 10 words of weapon. If you choose gun, you could do that. Gun, though, may be too narrow, so I chose the broader term weapon. And this verifies I'm in Ohio jurisprudence third. I run the result. I run the search, and let's look to see what the result is. One result. That's very abnormal. Usually you'll have more than that. But before we go over this result, I do want to show you what would happen if you searched in all of Ohio jurisprudence. You're going to get more results. In fact, you have 62 results here. You'd have to search within results to narrow these down or scroll through these to find something applicable. That's why I like to start with the table of contents. Now let's take a look. We're in Ohio jurisprudence. We're in the criminal law topic of Ohio jurisprudence, or rather the criminal law book. And underneath that, we're in the topic of weapons offenses, dealing with concealed weapons. So we're in pretty good shape. So let's open up the section that it pointed us to. This deals with duty to notify law enforcement officers that you are carrying a concealed weapon. So not really what we're looking for. But we have to be close because we're in the section dealing with carrying concealed weapons. So don't come back up here and put in another search term because you're going to search everything and you're going to be lost really fast. Instead, use your table of contents. So this is everything surrounding the section that we're in, such as what constitutes concealment and in a motor vehicle. Well, that might be more applicable, so let's look there. Section 1521 tells us that observing 1/3 of a rifle under the front seat constitutes concealment, and that points us to the Suber case. So I'm going to make a note of this Suber case because before I go to Suber, I want to look at what constitutes concealment as well. So here's a note. You may need to look at more than one section of a secondary source. So let's look at what constitutes concealment. Now I could have used just this previous button to get there as well. So don't forget you've got a previous and next. This will take you to the previous section. This will take you to the next section. So 1520, what constitutes concealment? If I scroll through here, I'm going to read about 1/3 of a rifle under the front seat constitutes concealment. Click on footnote 2. That's that Suber case again. So it looks like Suber is a case that we need to read and investigate more closely. So if I click on it, it now takes me to Suber. So now I have left a secondary source, and that has pointed me to primary law. So here's the case name, here's the case jurisdiction, here's the disposition, here's the case summary, and the head notes. Remember, you can't cite to these things, but they're helpful to you to understand the case and to navigate through the case. For example, head note 2 talks about a weapon need not be entirely hidden. That's what we need. So let's go to head note 2. That drops us, by clicking on that drops us into the middle of the case where head note 2 appears. And in fact, this says that a weapon need not be entirely hidden from view to be considered concealed under the statute. That's exactly what we need. And in fact, when we read the whole case, we will find that the court upheld the decision of the lower court, in other words, upheld the conviction, even though the entire gun was not hidden. So this does answer the question. But we're not done, because we need to make sure that we're dealing with good law, with valid law. So we need to go up to the top to look at Shepard's. So Shepard's will give you a symbol next to the case to let you know if the case is still good or not. This one has that green diamond with a plus, which says that there is positive treatment. Also, pay attention to the right side over here, this right box, which is your Shepard's summary. This tells us that there's no subsequent appellate history for this case. In other words, it did not get appealed to the Supreme Court of Ohio. It tells us that there are 10 decisions that have cited this case. 4 of those 10 have cited it positively. And then there's 7 other sites. So if we click on that, because I do like to go into those other sites, there's a statute, for instance. If I click on it, that's the concealed weapons statute. And it drops me into the annotations where the Suber case appears. So I can now read the annotations of concealed to see, are there other helpful cases here, either pro or con for me. But let's go back to citing decisions. If you remember, there were 10 total, 4 of which were positive. So if I click the positive, it now limited the 10 to those positive 4. One of which, though, is in Missouri. So I don't care about that. It's not binding. So I'm down to 3 cases. And one nice thing that Shepard's does for you is it gives you an actual quote of the case, so you can see exactly what that case tells or what that case says about the Suber case. You can also open that case by clicking on the hyperlink, and it drops you right into the area of the case where it is discussed. That's especially important if you are dealing with a case that has criticized the decision. You definitely want to read it. Pay attention, though, to the positive cases as well, because you may find more recent law or maybe law that's even more factually analogous to the situation you're dealing with. Okay, so that is an overview of Lexis Advance. I hope that this was helpful.